Um, hello? Is this thing on? Hello? Did I make it? I think we made it. I think we all made it. Yes! Alright, sweet. We're here. It's 2018. I didn't know if we said the right words as we last left you guys with the episode that ended 2017. There was a password to make it to 2018. I think we did it, though. I'm pretty sure the password was, what a dick. In any case, here we are. First episode of 2018, starting off right where we left off. And I think it's going to be an interesting time to speculate on things, because there's not too much in the way of concrete news for us to give you guys, unfortunately. I hope you will ride along with us as we come up with all sorts of great theories. We're already speculating on D4. We have some really great hypotheses out there.
Hypothesi?
Hypotenuse? I'm not sure how this works.
Hippopotamus.
Oh yes, we got quite a few hippopotami for you tonight.
In the hippocampus.
And the hips don't lie. Shakira told me that.
That she did. And I'm willing to believe her.
Yes, she seems very convincing. She's done a lot of market research. But oh goodness, before we get wacky on you guys, welcome to episode 132. New year, new Diablo?
Question mark?
I think someone put a question mark on the teleprompter.
Stay classy, San Diego?
I'm Ninebeard?
No,
you're Ninebeard. Oh man, so how's it going, dude? Welcome to the new year.
Thank you. I am so excited right now because tomorrow I have a day off. I've not.
Is this the first day off of the new year?
It's like the first day off in over a month. It's been a while.
Jeebus.
Yeah. And then next week I have 2 days off, and I don't even know what to do with myself at that point. I might actually even play some Diablo. Who knows? I might even get a stream in. Dear God. Where are we going?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Big plans.
I know, right?
You take your vitamins from now.
Yeah. But, yeah, just kind of going with the flow, getting things done, and just kind of trying to keep an eye on everything going on and the happenings. And I guess, well, that has been relatively easy because there hasn't been too much going on out there. But how about yourself? No, you've been cheating on the Diablo a little bit there.
Uh-oh. Listen, like in the same vein that Shakira inspired me to do some market research, I'm just out there making sure that Diablo 3 is still the game for me. So I have to, sprinkle my hands, sprinkle sow my seeds, my wild oats elsewhere to make sure that, I really do want to get married to Diablo 3. But yeah, it's as we kind of suspected and told the people in the last episode, it's a quiet time even right now, regardless of whether we think D3 is in maintenance mode or not. We're coming off the holidays. Blizzard takes a nice bunch of days off as well to kind of settle themselves into the new year. So it's unlikely that we would have had any sort of news. The only thing we could have maybe seen was if they finally did launch that late PTR.
Which, spoilers, they didn't.
They didn't. So I feel like we can definitely, nail the door nail shut. That's not how that saying works, but, I think that one's done.
Nail the door nail shut. That's, that's going to be the phrase of 2018.
Starting off with great English. Yeah, it's definitely a bit quiet out there, but I think it's a good time, like you mentioned, and like I have been doing, to kind of do some other things. So as far as D3 World goes, I did have my Crusader. I guess I still do. I'm talking about it in the past tense. I have my Crusader. That is a softcore Crusader that will never die.
They actually, they don't go away unless you go out of your way to delete them.
Right. Which I'm not that mad at it yet. So it gets to live.
For now.
So I do. Yeah, for now. I do have that Crusader. I think it's sitting a little bit above 1900 Paragon. One of my like stretch goals was to get to 2K before the end of the season. I kind of lost a little bit of motivation on it, just from the fact that it really gets down to when it's. This is probably the one maybe big thing that I feel in the softcore world is that you really just feel the Paragon grind, because there's nothing that really can happen to you on any given day. Like there's no, oh gosh, my internet's weird, or it's storming outside, or I don't know if I'm gonna be safe. You know, like you just know, okay, I'm gonna progress from this experience point to this experience point if I play this much. So it becomes like this weird math problem of just how many hours can you put in on this level of Greater Rift with this many people in your party. Okay, that's how much experience you'll have by the end of this week. So I don't know, that to me motivated me a little bit less. And I decided to go back to hardcore.
Yay!
Woo! Just as a way to mix up the season a little bit, it's a solo self-found hardcore demon hunter. I was missing the DH just because of all the exciting changes that they got, and I wanted to do some fast multi-shot speed farming. And also the hardcore experience. Like, I really honest, if anything, is kind of maybe the first of the mini experiments of leaving things and coming back. But it really reminded me, being on softcore, how much I love that thrill of, you know, you're weak, or you get, pardon me, you get in this situation where you're like, I'm not sure how to get out of this, and your heart starts racing. Like when I was leveling up on this character, I got to level 3. I'm in the Halls of Agony trying to get some extra experience and stuff, and I come across the Hell Berserker guys, the big hammer swingers. And it's just a pack of them. They're blues. And, you know, at that point, they only have one affix. It's like Vortex. But every time they Vortex me in, my heart starts racing because I'm like,
they're going
to
hammer
swing
me
on me. Yeah, I have no cheat death. I have, like, no life. If they hit me, I don't know. I don't know if I can take that hit right now. So it kind of put that fear of Diablo back in me. And it felt good. It felt nice to kind of stay connected and, you know, not really zone or trance out. So I'm really enjoying it again. I actually did, however, die already on Saturday, thanks to Microsoft, because they were like, "Hey, man, this looks like it's too easy for you. Here's a nice little reset, and an update for you."
You gotta love those updates.
Oh yeah, which is great. Apparently, no one's having any problems with any of the Windows updates lately.
Yeah,
not a single soul.
So it had to come to you. Is what you're saying. Yeah. Someone had to have a problem, and so you're the one that got picked.
That's me.
Yep. Congratulations on the RNG.
Hey, thanks. I don't know if I wanted to win that lottery. Ah, boy. But what was kind of the nice outcome of that was, so the way I kind of set up my streaming schedule for 2018 is I'm looking to basically have a main game that I play Monday through Friday, and right now, of course, that's D3. And then my weekends, my Saturday, Sunday, are going to be a bit more experimental, like you were saying, you know, trying some other games out. Probably primarily other ARPGs, because I think we can probably learn a lot from what other games do successfully or you know, fall down on, and maybe that can inform some of our thoughts on what we want out of the next Diablo entry.
That was actually something that we were, for those of you both listening or watching in chat. It was something we were talking about before we went live with the pre-show, about just bouncing back and forth some ideas like for the show, and something that you might see from us in the future. We might kind of like both take a kind of like dip a foot in to some other ARPGs and other games out there to see what, you know, other companies are doing with their games, and what Blizzard could potentially do with, you know, like Diablo 4, which we speculate they're working on.
Yes, great speculation. Pretty sure D4 is being worked on.
All signs and portents point to, well, we won't even say Diablo 4. We'll say they're working on something. I believe they've titled it Unannounced Project.
Yes, UP for short. Yes. They're working on Up.
Diablo Up.
The sequel to Up.
Yeah. The first 10 minutes will kill you, so don't play hardcore.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, I think it's important to kind of have like a state of the ARPG, you know, if we can kind of see what the status quo is, or even what some of the, because, you know, some of these games are actually releasing updates and such, you know, from from right now where we are with D3 and until whatever this unannounced project is.
I mean, hell, Titan Quest just they came back out of the blue. With an expansion. There's some stuff that's out there. I imagine some other people are going to go through and take advantage of just the speculation, especially after that article last month, or not even article, but that forward-looking thing from the analyst at Goldman Sachs. Talking about like they're confident that Diablo 4 is going to release in 2019. God, I hope that's true. That would make for a very interesting BlizzCon or Gamescom this year. That's for certain. But I'm sure that that's going to build some hype and such, and so there might be some other companies that go through to push updates or other new games. Cause I've had my eye on looking at trying out like Grim Dawn and Divinity 2.
Yeah, I think I've heard. Actually, when I was kind of levying suggestions for new games, Grim Dawn came up quite a bit. People were saying it's in a really good spot. They've been expanding it and stuff, so I think there's definitely some room out there to try some stuff. Right now, I'm not really playing another ARPG, but I am playing an RPG brought to you by the good folks at Blizzard. I'm wowing, man. Aren't you proud?
He did it. He finally did it. He gave in.
I did. Oh, boy. Unfortunately, I'm not playing a Warlock, so I don't know how proud of me you can truly be.
That's okay. You can always change your mind at 55 and go Death Knight.
Oh, there you go. That'll make you feel better.
Maybe. Because then if you do it, then I can also then just come in and play a Death Knight, because the Death Knight starting area is one of my favorite little quests in all of WoW.
Oh, fancy. Word, man. So yeah, I'm trying out a new game. It's called WoW. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's pretty fun though.
I have not. Please tell me more.
Yeah, it's made by this indie company, and
called
it's
Silicon and Synapse.
Yeah, it's a bit of a work in progress. They're still working on it, patching it every now and again, but it's fun. I'm at level 14 right now. I was literally just questing before we started up the call for the pre-show and everything. So it's got its hooks in me a little bit. I'm playing a hunter, a blood elf hunter, and so far so good. I really want to try to run the gamut, you know? I want to see what these mythic dungeons are like. I want to hear why everyone hated Garrison so much. I want to, mess with all that stuff and see. I don't think I'll get to the point where I'm like a hardcore raider or anything like that, but I want at least kind of the full brush of the WoW experience.
Can I offer at least one tip?
Yes. Yeah. Just the tip.
Just the tip. Ooh, baby. Try and burn through Outland as fast as you can.
Because it's really bad?
I guess for me, it always is. It's a pain. It more so than anything else just really shows the age of its zone and how the quests are laid out, the rewards, the difficulty of like going through and actually finding like the quest and quest hubs and such in that particular game. So the faster you can get through Outland, the quicker you can get to, I think it is 68, so that way you can jump into Northrend, the better.
Duly noted. I will take that on my journey. Well, sweet, man. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be throwing down some updates here and there as we delve into other games, and you guys all in the workshop land will be hearing from us both on Diablo and some new stuff.
And we hope that there are still going to be some new stuff from Diablo to go through and talk about, but that will be like one of the bigger speculations coming once we get into season 13. Is what will there be a PTR halfway through season 13? Or are we going to get once season 13 goes through and drops, are we going to have something new? Right. Yeah.
Because at this point, it's like what they say, it takes more than one occurrence to make a pattern,
Yeah.
Right now, we kind of are in the dark as to what exactly their intentions are for our daughter, that is D3. But I think by the time, like you said, season 13 pops up, and if there really is no action's coming, then that starts to a little bit put that writing on the wall, and definitely speculation mode for maintenance mode can turn on a little bit.
Yeah, if we get 2 seasons back to back with no patches or updates, unless they come through and at least announce something, which I honestly don't see them doing. I don't see them coming out and saying, hey, we've shifted all production over to the unannounced project, so there's not going to be any more updates for D3. I don't really ever see them actually making that announcement, but it has to happen at some point. And if we have 2 back-to-back seasons with no updates whatsoever, then it's probably a pretty good indication that that has happened.
Yep. Like saying it without saying it.
Yeah, yeah. That it kind of is going into maintenance mode, and that they're going to be pushing more and more into the unannounced project, whatever shape or form that takes.
And I think you make a good point too, that Blizzard never really tells us that they're not doing something. Usually the announcements are reserved for, hey, this thing is coming and it's going to be great, but they're never like, hey, we're not updating this anymore. Or we're not. Well, rarely, I should say. Anyways, maybe they have done little bits here and there, but in general, it's usually more positive things that they tend to promote.
Yeah, I guess Diablo is it's an interesting situation, because with World of Warcraft, you're always expecting the next expansion, and they are still producing content for the current expansion after they announced the next one. So you have Battle of Azeroth coming, and after the Battle of Azeroth, they did they put out a pretty big update, and then now it's the time in between like the 7.3 to the launch of Battle of Azeroth. Everyone knows, well, we're not getting anything, so we might as well just have as much fun with the game as we can right now, and we're just waiting for the next expansion to go through and give us that big update. With Diablo, it's different, because it's it's that, I guess it's whether it's an expansion or a whole new game, it means a lot more to go through and have that next update, and it changes the dynamic. They can't announce it and then still be releasing content for D3 just the way that the game is set up. They don't have as big of a team or a subscription to finance that type of production. At least we assume.
Right. That is a good point. Yeah, it's just a different kind of beast, All of Blizzard's children are different.
Yeah, yeah, and who knows? Who knows? We might get some rumblings or mumblings. They did, at least like last year, thanks to Nevelistus, we did have the announcement of no announcements at BlizzCon.
That's true.
So we did kind of like get a heads up of what was going through and getting coming down the line, or I should say lack thereof. So who knows? We should be getting like the dates for BlizzCon. What, usually it's around April. When they let us know the BlizzCon dates. So
sounds about right.
Yeah, I guess that'll be the next big thing to kind of look forward to.
Yeah, call it almost like the mid-year update. Yeah, so I guess we'll put a pin in that. Check back in and see if any big news comes down the pipeline or anything that we can really sink our teeth into. I guess the other thing to sort of mini look at as far as season 12 goes is the end date, right? At this point, we're, I want to say 10 weeks in. Maybe this will be the end of the 10th, start of the 11th week. So pretty much by the time next Friday hits, we can be looking at a 2-week announcement, and from anywhere from there to next Friday after that, or Friday after that, however long they want to keep it going. Yeah,
I'm with you on that one. I would say I would be terribly surprised if by our next episode we haven't gotten the 2-week announcement by then. I think it should more than likely, like, the season should be ending, I guess, like the Monday, like the February 5th, is if it goes through on time. I think, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Yeah, that would be like exactly that 12-week period. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I'm with you too. Either depends on when they want to end. I think traditionally seasons have been ending on Fridays, so if we take that, then maybe the second, which would be right before that 5th, or the 9th would be the other, and that would be a little bit over the 12-week period. But I'm with you. Yeah. So that would mean like probably next Friday we would get an announcement, and then we'd have the show on the 24th. I'm like, hey, we know now.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess will we have a short break? Will it go like a Friday to Friday, or will we have like a multi-week break in between?
That's a good question, because previously we've had kind of reasons for there to be a little bit of that longer break, right? There's the Necro, which had the longest break we've ever seen, between 10 and 11, and then between 11 and 12, it wasn't super long, but I mean, there was all the new juicy content in the patch that I think people were okay with it not starting right away. This time around, I don't know. I feel like they can just kind of roll into it. Like, what the shortest turnaround I think we've seen was what, like, actually, have we ever had a season that just, or I guess it was a patch, right? If they don't have to patch, then technically, season can start whenever.
I'm trying to remember when we had the which seasons it was, but I'm pretty sure we did have a season that ended on a Monday and started on a Friday.
It was like the super quick turn. Like, can't breathe. Yeah, wait, hold on.
We had no breaks in between.
That's right.
Yeah, because they could go through and do something like that, where you have the season end on like the 2nd and then start on the 8th, which would be a Thursday.
Well, I'm actually sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, since we can kind of expect all season openers to start on Thursdays now.
That's right. I'm looking at the kind of, one of our things we can best do is look back. History might repeat itself. And since season 7 to season 8 was that one where there was no new patch for it, that had an end date of October 13th and then started on October 21st. So a little over 1 week between end and start.
And that was 2016?
Yeah. Yep. That was the last season of 2016.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then after that was 2 weeks, and then the month, and then the last one was October 20th, end of season 11, and November 9th, start of season 12. So they have been. I guess those have been like the aberrant ones. I don't know. There's no real rhyme or reason in the last couple of downtimes.
Yeah, though I think the last one was just because if they did the 2 weeks, the season would be starting on BlizzCon.
Oh, yep.
And so that one,
I kind of forgot about that little thing in November there.
that little tiny thing. Forget about it.
That indie convention.
Yeah, that little indie convention. BlizzCon, it celebrates this company called Silicon and Synapse. I don't know if you've heard of them before. They made the what was it? The Justice League fighting game for the Super Nintendo. Just so you know.
Critically acclaimed.
Yeah. Rock and Roll Racer, Blackthorn. No? Yeah, you probably haven't heard of them. But yeah. Otherwise, that one, I'm pretty sure that one was going to be just a 2-week break in between, but that timing didn't work out well, so it got pushed back because it was the week after BlizzCon as we were all just getting back.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, and now that I'm looking at it, all the seasons previous to that, so I'm looking like from 4 to 5, 5 to 6, etc. They all were 2 weeks basically, like 14 days ish. So maybe that's kind of the norm, and we'll see that this time around. Yeah. Which would mean season would start somewhere in like mid to late February.
Well, that sounds about right.
Mark your calendars. Have a little bit of love on Valentine's Day, and then a little bit of war.
Some demon slaying. It's the perfect Valentine's Day gift. Hey, babe, I want you to come and see a post-apocalyptic world and go and kill demons with me.
Oh boy, it actually kind of makes me wonder what like Diablo Valentine's Day cards would look like. Like I got a Thunder Fury for you. I got a Furious Thunder for you.
Yes, I like where this is going.
My furnace burns.
Hey, baby, I want to impale in your shadows.
Wait, what's the rating on this show again?
Mature?
For mature audiences only.
Man, what a dick. Uh,
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that's all we kind of got there.
Hammer,
We got
hammer.
jokes. We got some look forward as far as season 12 transition into season 13.
Not a lot that's going to be going on there, so I imagine most of the meta and everything like that, barring any weird, strange interactions that the community might find, will more or less be the same. So anything that you have that works this season will work next season. So this is an opportune time to try something new. You know, since
Yep.
if you always play a demon hunter, always play a crusader, you never got a chance to go through and say like play a necromancer or pick it up, and now would be the perfect opportunity. Since there's no updates or changes to whatever your default class is, now is, you know, give it a break.
That's right. You can always fall back to it if you don't like what you try, and you know it's kind of old faithful at that point. You know it in and out. You can have like you could go the other way, I suppose, and just do the same thing but super efficiently because you don't have the guesswork of well, this set was maybe going to be the best, but then it turned out to be this. You just go super ham. And we could probably next time around discuss the Hadrig's gifts since we do know what those will be, and maybe that'll inspire some class choices as well too. Coming attractions.
Yeah, and I guess that will also, at least for some people, change up what they might be starting. You know, that they hit the season off with, depending upon what the conquests and you just said it. Hadrig's gift is. I don't know why I struggled with that in particular.
I think if Speed Racer comes back next season, I'm gonna try to solo it.
Wow.
I want that in my because that's like a thing in my Diablo catalog that I haven't done yet. I've never done a solo Speed Racer.
I'm guessing that would be what, Crusader or Demon Hunter?
Probably best bets. Or I would imagine a Witch Doctor could probably do it pretty well too. Just chicking your way through.
This is also
Especially,
true.
yeah, especially because now that you know they got the power on the set, so you can just blow stuff up when you pop out chicken.
You get a good enough gear, you at least on normal, you could one shot a boss,
Oh yeah,
which is like that. You know, the make or break point on a couple of them.
that's right. Yeah, pretty much. You just got to be able to get them done. Don't transition on you. Don't phase out on you.
No transition,
No segues.
none at all.
Nope. Although speaking of segues, we do have one thing that at least is not necessarily new, but it's new to you potentially if you never got to try it last time around, which is the Darkening of Tristram. That fun thing we were teasing last show is actually back. It started at the beginning of this month, the beginning of this year. I was like, oh gosh, don't say that that's actually true.
It is in fact both. Yes.
Yes, one and the same.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same as it was last year. It had a little bit of a hiccup starting off, where you couldn't get the map off of Wirt's Leg, because they had changed it to a blue, so there was some coding changes, at least in the background. But now that seems to all be corrected. That was the
And there was also the little community confusion where the portal didn't open right away. Where last time, 2017, things started at the same time. You had the cultists running around where you could get the pages from them in adventure mode. But then you also just had the portal right away at the old ruins where you could pop in and go do the labyrinth. This time, cultists were out as like a precursor event. I believe it was from the 1st of January to the 3rd of January, and then the portal opened up.
And that is one. I don't think was there an achievement for collecting all 7 of the cultist pages?
There is indeed.
Yeah, and it has an interesting little backstory on it as well. They apparently find some way of manipulating time, and so you have to stop them from, you know, changing the events of the past. Which,
Oh,
yeah.
I should read more.
Nah, I do believe that this particular event is, of course, not canon. You know, God, I hope so, because whenever you go through and introduce time travel in any storyline, it just does nothing but fuck it up.
Oh boy, it's a messy wormhole.
Not
to dive too far from Diablo, but that well, spoiler alert, I suppose, for those who haven't yet completed Final Fantasy VIII. Um, a little break for people to tune out.
Yeah.
But when they introduced that portion of the story, it kind of lost a little bit of its luster for me, just because it was like, really? And now we're doing this? And there's all these different timelines in the Sorceress War and stuff. Like, I don't know. It became a little less cool, even though you're flying around this freaking awesome ship.
There's... Go ahead.
No, I was just doing it anyways. Like a get off my lawn, old man kind of thing.
There was one of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine involves time travel, and it almost feels like as you go through and you watch the episode, they're jumping back and forth between like the past and the future, but it's killing the character as he's jumping back and forth. And when he does like the final jump into the future and finds his future self, he passes on like this information in order to go through and like save the station. And then like his future self is like, wait, but if you're past me and you die, why am I still alive? And then both the past and future him just kind of like do the face palm and like, I hate temporal mechanics. It's like it's almost like the writers backed themselves into a corner, didn't know how to actually like kind of like fully explain it, so they just joked about it and then moved on.
Just made fun of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like that episode so much, is just because they're like, yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. It's too much of a trouble to make it make sense.
It's almost like one of the better ways to do it, right? It's like you don't take it too seriously, because it never seems to work out properly.
No, never does. Never does. I mean, hey, look at Warlords of Draenor in World of Warcraft.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the expansion that almost everyone unilaterally hated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wasn't even playing, and I saw all that hatred.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just because of the time travel in the storyline. It legitimately had a bunch of other issues that plagued it. But moving on. We've talked about World of Warcraft almost as much as we've talked about Diablo in this podcast. I remember those were the days, like back in the Diablo and Gamers podcast, where we'd go through and constantly talk about World of Warcraft because everyone was talking about how they put WoW in Diablo.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And Flux would always, like, try to pretend that he didn't know what WoW was. Like, that's that game where everybody runs around in RPs and stuff, right?
Yeah. Moonguard. If you want to roleplay, just go check out Moonguard. Walk on over to, what was it, Goldshire. Have yourself a grand old time. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. And no, don't do that, please.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Got a story to tell. All right. Well, I suppose we should continue with Diablo topics.
Yeah, with Diablo topics, which one of the other more interesting things that's kind of like come up is Diablo 2. Did they solve the botting issue?
That one is kind of peculiar. There seem to be reports of bots missing in action. Like, everyone's like, where's the bots?
Yeah. And now, since this one kind of like hit our news desk, haven't had much of a chance to go through and fully explore it. Like, I don't know if it's just like if it's certain types of bots, because if you go into a Diablo 2 chat room right now, load up the game, hop in, you're not getting spammed by all these websites trying to sell you stuff. But from some of the things that I remember back in the day, that a lot of those spam bots that would spam channels and like whisper you, and like you'd be playing a game and then all of a sudden like someone would enter the game, do an advertisement, and then log out, but their avatar would never, or character would never actually load into the game, is that there was apparently some sort of like glitch in the API that allowed people to interface and chat directly with the Diablo 2 client without actually loading into the game. And that's how a lot of those spam bots worked. So I don't know if they just closed that loophole, so that way there's no more spam bots, which, when I logged in and checked real quick, it was spam free. Or if they actually solved the issue with the in-game bots, and that's something that I haven't seen. All of my characters have long since expired, so I wasn't able to like jump into a bail run or anything like that and see who or what is carrying the run, if it was just a bot running through, or if there's anyone out there that was running.
Right, and that was your point that you made before we started podcasting tonight. Was there were those bots that were kind of doing the bail runs and the Pindle skin runs and things like that. So, kind of makes you wonder what the landscape of, farming for items is now when it comes to D2. Or is it just a bunch of legit players hanging out with each other, actually doing what they're supposed to do? Sounds like a wonderful time.
That would be marvelous. That really would. But yeah, it would kind of change the landscape of the higher end D2 playing, because a lot of the bail runs that you would hop into and get carried in order to like start going and grinding levels, it was a bot. Someone just had a bot running their super powerful character to try and grind out the 99, and so people would just go through and join on the bandwagon as it would go through and just run through the experience and the kills. So now it would actually have, it wouldn't really slow it down too much, but it probably would lower the access of how many people were playing it overall to do the bail runs if the bots are dead. So it'd be interesting, but like you said, it's like this is actually just like legitimate people out there playing, people that you can talk to instead of a whole bunch of bots running together in creepy ways. And
I wonder what if
when bots level bots, what's safe in the world?
Oh God, it's the AI. It's taking over. I wonder what this means for the economy too, because maybe less items are being found, and therefore maybe some items go up in value because not everyone's running these bots, and so you don't have a bajillion Skulder's Ires or Arcane Valors or whatever dropping all day.
Yeah,
maybe things go. Maybe it changes things.
It very well could be. Though a lot of those items, are that you would go through and trade are duplicates.
Yeah, I guess there's still those things too, right? Like just because the bots are gone doesn't mean all the cheats are gone.
Yeah. So there's always I know they fixed a lot of those issues, but there's always the issue in D2 of dupes and things of that nature, and they usually only get scrubbed. I imagine during like ladder resets at this point, since I haven't seen any notifications of a rust storm in forever. And Diablo 2 gets patched only once every couple of years.
This is true. Speaking of seasonal starts, though, we were kind of musing that maybe we would bring back the whole Westmarch Workshop plays the Diablo 2 season start.
Yeah, it would be fun. I think it should be coming up in March. I think it's either March or April when they go and they do. Because they have a pretty good schedule. Every 6 months they do a reset of the Diablo 2 ladder. Let me see if I could find one here. Looks like May. Might be in May.
Maybe right around the D3 anniversary. You could play some D2. It makes perfect sense.
It does.
Well, that could be fun, because I would like to get a character that I work on for about 2 days and then let sit and get deleted. I think that sounds like a good use of some time.
Oh yeah, totally. Totes.
But in all honesty, though, since we'd be trying other ARPGs, as far as going forward, maybe we should also go back and see how things were as well.
That is one of the I guess one of the biggest gripes, of course, with D3 was the itemization system in the beginning, and to a certain extent, its somewhat linearness in even the current iteration with the Loot 2.0 compared to D2. As in Diablo 3, it's just more higher numbers, higher values, and then like crit and crit damage do more for you than this stat, or with this build I need more of this stat. Whereas like D2, it's almost like going through and trying to set like an equalizer, because like this, I've got to have like 110 dexterity, and then I need 85 strength, and then everything else is going to go into vitality, and then it's like, oh no, I'm going to be using a shield, so actually I need I cap out at like 200 dexterity, but this item gives me dex, so I need to only get like this much dex, and then I need faster hit recovery to drop it down to these many frames, and I need this much attack speed in order to get clip frames on that, and it was all bells, whistles, knobs, dials, and stuff like that. There's a lot more going on. It was definitely a more complicated itemization system, but doesn't necessarily mean that it was a better itemization system.
Right, different take on the same thing. But yeah, that is a good point. And even, I mean, it happens to some degree in Diablo 3. Like, you get an item that can kind of do something for you, take your character up. You know, like those season starts where I'm like, hey, I got a guard of Johanna. I guess my hammers are going to carry the group for a while. In the same way, you know, we might kill in Dariel. Somebody grabs like a Nagel ring and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you got a sweet ring drop. Or, you know, just some of those events can kind of pop up maybe a little more infrequently, but are still really cool when they do happen in the D2 realm of things.
Yeah, and then of course also like you have the whole experience of not having, you know, solo drops. Everything's shared.
Oh, that's right. And you're really good at clicking. I hate playing with you. I just remembered why I don't want to do this anymore. Oh man. Every time. That's actually the one thing that sucks about being a ranged character is like, all right, we got the kill. Oh, everything's gone already.
That was one of the other great things about playing like a necromancer is, you know, your skeletons are doing everything and doing all the killing. So you can just run up and be like, yeah, I'm just going to stand here and wait for the boss to drop all the loot. And I'm actually contributing.
Get to have your cake and eat it too.
Yep.
You son of a gun.
You son of a bitch.
But yeah, so that's something we can look forward to. And when we do, perhaps it'll be a bot-free experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can make it a bot-free experience. And one of the other nice things about Diablo 2 is it has an 8-player cap. So we can invite a whole bunch of people from the community to come and play along with us.
That's right. Reserve your tickets now.
Yeah, we'll go through and be looking into that one.
And I suppose last, but certainly not least, is this, well, you tell me, Nine, how you feel about this tinfoil hat theory, because Thunderclaw came into my stream channel yesterday, and he was like, guys, I got the next great speculation for all of us. And he dropped this Reddit thread that I happened to peruse earlier today, and he's stating that it seems very curious that the Heroes of the Storm game got a announcer pack that was not included in like PTR. There was no sort of like early warnings or signs that this was going to be a thing, but it's from Tyrael, which means that the voice actor for Tyrael is out and about at Blizzard. And so Thunderclaw's working theory here is that, man, you know, maybe this Tyrael voice actor guy was just there doing something else, and they're like, hey, by the way, we'll use your talents for this Heroes of the Storm pack besides the other thing that you're doing. And so he's positing that this could mean the next game will have Tyrael and they're working on it, and, you know, go on from there, take it as far as you want. Your thoughts on this?
I'm just going to go out there on a limb and assume that Thunderclaw is just, in fact, trolling the community with that one. Because I'm taking a guess here on this next part, but I'm pretty sure that Screen Actor Guild contracts do not work that way. Where it's just like, hey, since you're in the studio, you want to record some stuff for, you know, Heroes of the Storm? You know, it's... I'm pretty sure that a lot of that stuff, you know, has to, you know, go through, get approved, and have agents involved, and you agree to the contract and the pay rate and how much you're going to go through and do this, and then book the time, and well, let's go through, and the script has to be approved by the higher ups and get, you know, QA passing, and then also has to go through and get transcribed into all the other different languages that the game is, you know, patched for. So, yeah. No.
Party pooper.
Yeah.
I was kind of with you on that. I mean, I kind of feel the threat is a bit tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Probably just wanted to get some things going. But it's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. We're really reaching for a few things here.
Yep, we are reaching very hard with this one.
However, though, it kind of does lend to, and this is something I think is right within your realm of expertise. It kind of brings us back to the point of where are we at the end of Reaper of Souls? And the next question being, we saw the beginning of Reaper of Souls featuring heavily with Tyrael, trying to stop Malthael, and to no avail. So, do you feel like the next game or whatever could open again with a scene where Tyrael is kind of like the main figure or has some sort of significant impact? Would his voice talents, regardless of this, having nothing to do with anything, do you suspect that Tyrael plays some bigger role?
Well, I'm pretty sure that no matter where they go with the next Diablo game, that Tyrael will probably have to have some part in the story. If for nothing else than taking the role of Cain in Diablo 3 and dying, as kind of like the sacrifice that emboldens the character to want to go through and continue on and defeat the evil that destroyed him, type thing. But it's like, between D2 and D3, it was 20 years. Tyrael's mortal now. He's a human. If they do another time skip like that and fast forward it another 20 years, or to one of the easier things to do with, I'm trying to formulate my thoughts into words. So you have, at the end of Reaper of Souls, from a creative storytelling point of view, you have a very interesting problem. You have an all-powerful character. You have the Nephilim, who is, for all intents and purposes, a god. Is defeated, the strongest foe that both heaven and hell have thrown at it. There's nothing else in creation that can go toe-to-toe with the Nephilim. How do you present a new challenge to a world where that character lives? You can't. So what do? You take the story forward to the point where that character has died. Demons, angels, they don't know time. They're immortal in that aspect. They can sit back and wait for the Nephilim to die off. Just like Odyssean from the Sin War trilogy, was strong enough to push back all of the hosts of both heaven and hell out of Sanctuary, but gave his life in the process of doing it, and then they just came back in. So it's something it would be an interesting writing point that they could go through and use for just creative direction, to have the forces of hell or heaven just wait it out. Without anything, even though the World Stone is gone and Nephilim are going to be more and more common, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to be at the same level as, Odyssean or any of the characters from D3. There could be a lot more Nephilim, and they could just take the guise of, there's a lot more people that are spellcasters or something like that. But they don't have to be these godlike beings that can actually defy heaven and hell. So that... And if you take it from that perspective, which would be a nice, easy way of pushing the story forward and solving the problem of you have a god living in your world that could just kick heaven and hell's ass, should they try to attack again. But then at that point, Tyrael's also going to be really old. What happens to Tyrael? Does he age like any other mortal? What happens when he dies? Does his soul, go back to the void and pandemonium where all of humanity's souls go, or does he go back to heaven? Does he get reforged? If he brought himself back from death once, doing something that no angel had ever done before, could he do it again? But would he come back as an angel, or would he come back as a mortal? Who knows? There's a bunch of interesting questions that are out there.
And that is kind of an interesting take to give it. Just the fact that Tyrael is mortal now means there is a story point where he could die. And you're you also make the point of, really a lot of leeway, I suppose, the writers have with wherever they want to start the timeline of D4 with. I actually had forgotten that. Yeah, it was a big 20-year jump in terms of the storyline from D2 to D3. So there's nothing to certainly stop them from saying, all right, and now 100 years later, here's where we are. Or, you know, if they want a true reset. And if you think about it, too, with all those writers that we know, Metzen, Kindrigan, kind of moving on, maybe it is the way that the new writers get kind of a cleaner slate if they want to take things in a different direction or, you know, kind of reset a few character profiles.
Yeah, man. It's also, I mean, there's ton. That's not the only way that they could go through and like kind of like get their way out of that. They could always resurrect the World Stone, because it was the World Stone that was inhibiting you know, humanity's powers and preventing them from becoming Nephilim in the first place. You know, someone could find what happened to the World Stone after Tyrael destroyed it, you know, when it goes through, collects together the shards, puts it back together, and all of a sudden, you know, all the Nephilim are just back to being normal humans, and then they come back for like round 2. There are things for them to go through and do with the story, but the very first question that you have to answer for, you know, the team that would be working on whatever the story is going forward, they have to solve the problem, you know, of the Nephilim from D3. They have to be out of the picture, because otherwise wouldn't they be the one responding to the problem, as opposed to your new level 1 character starting just outside of Tristram? You know, because they kind of did that with D2 going into D3. It was, you know, it's 20 years have passed, and so like a lot of the characters have become, you know, they've moved on. They become, you know, teachers or mentors. You know, some of them have died, you know, or they're past their prime. They're not, you know, even though they're really strong and powerful, they're not at the point where they could really defy the forces of heaven or hell again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, dude, that makes me, you know, hearing you talk about it, it just makes me want more story. Like, even though I'm not going to read it, but I want you to be able to talk to me about more story and to have, you know, just this canon explored or expanded a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, that's actually one of the things, going through shameless self-plug, that I am going and writing over on Diablo Fans. It's probably going to be like one article a month. It's kind of like a little monthly series, but I am trying to go through and quantify a bunch of the loose ends at the ending of Diablo 3 with potential things that they could, you know, go and move forward. With,
cool.
and you know, the next update, whether it's an expansion or a new game or who knows what, but there's a lot of things that they could go and do. Right now, I'm touching on all of the follower quests and then Covetous Shen, and then from there I'm gonna go through into a bit more of some of the esoteric stuff like Shrouded Moors and things that a lot of people might have just skipped or not even noticed that we could potentially explore in the next Diablo game.
I dig it. Well, there's that shameless plug. Definitely, we'll have to check out those articles and let us know when they go live.
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
Yeah, and also that's just this one, of course, it depends greatly on my free time, but it's always something. I have at least half a dozen scripts of tiny like little YouTube videos that I wanted to go through and do, and every time, like, Riker has been doing a Diablo lore series, and like every time someone goes and does, you know, like a lore series, I'm like, I need to go through and do this, and then then just something happens and I don't have the time for it. But things are calming down at work. We've hired some people, and so the workload is becoming a little bit less.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll be moving into a new place in March, so there'll be some nice life changes going through and coming in there. But yeah, who knows? Maybe if I have enough free time. Hey, I've got some nice new fancy video editing software I haven't used yet.
Hey.
to go through. Thank you, Humble Bundle.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. To go through and try and do that, because I think this is like the perfect time as the development of D3 kind of like goes through and we assume is winding down. Let's speculate. Let's see what other interesting stories are out there that they could go through and tell.
I am down for that. Excited to see it, my friend. Let's have it.
Yes.
And I suppose with that, we can actually move forward into the community stories that many of our lovely esteemed members have decided to write in and share with us.
I'm gonna ruin it, but that was a beautiful segue.
Thank you.
It had to be stated. Had to be stated.
And now that you've acknowledged it, the moment is dead.
Yay! Well, luckily I play Necromancer, so we'll resurrect it, but it'll only be a shadow of its former self.
You can't hear it, but I'm face palming.
I can see it. I don't mean to, I don't know if you know this, but you are on camera.
What? Oh, I didn't put my face on.
All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Now that I've completely ruined the segue in more ways than one, we can continue.
Now it's like a real Westmarch work. I was trying to do too much. I'm sorry. All right.
Professional level podcasting.
That's right. First email up comes from War Machine. He's got a happy New Year's for us. Thanks for being one of the few regular D3 podcasts that's still running out there. I've been in and out of the various console versions of the game since it released for PS3, and I really started getting back in when Darkening a Tristram started last year on PS4. How about that? And Seasons got announced, which were a sorely needed feature on consoles. Since then, I played the last 3 seasons on console and had a blast. Console interface is much better than anyone does give it credit for, and it's super relaxing to be able to chill on the sofa and play casually. With the latest season, I'm about to complete my personal goal of getting most of my slots augmented, hitting Great Rift 100 with Condemned Crusader, and so I recently got into the PC version of D3 to be able to play with my brothers and most of my friends, and also take advantage of the superior community features that PC has to offer. On PC, I'm playing right now the IK Hoda build as a change of pace, and after one day and a quick power level, I'm already Torment 10 ready and looking forward to completing many future seasonal journeys. If you guys aren't full, I'd like a clan invite for a bit of chatting and some split bounties, which seem to be the bane of my existence. Thanks, and it's good to meet you, a War Machine. And yes, we do have plenty of spots, plenty, especially with that lull in the season as things tend to go. It frees up some spots in the clan. So we will go ahead, if you're not already part of the clan, if you haven't already requested the invite, we'll go ahead and try to put connect the dots together and get you in there. Thanks for the email.
Thank you. We always appreciate it when people give us the shout out for the podcast, and we thank you for being a listener.
Absolutely.
And this next one comes in from Osmodius, a longtime listener. Sup, fellas? This feels like it's going to be a long note, so settle in. Hey, this is partially Leviathan's fault for requesting emails in episode 130. Too long, didn't read. Blizz Suxor's D3 rules, Necro for the win. So does that mean I can just skip the email?
I think that's it.
I think so. Normally you put that at the end, not at the beginning. But anyways, here we go. All right. This isn't as much of a 2017 recap as it is a Season 12 essay. I was online for day 1 of Season 12. The class next up in my rotation was Barbarian. I got some decent finds during Week 1, including an ancient IK Maul. So I was running IK6 Raker 4, leveling up my main gyms to ramp up into a solo Greater Rift 70. Sadly, upon starting a Greater, I charged into the first elite pack I encountered, and all the power in my house turned off. Dead Bard. Ouch.
Oh, I know that feel.
Well, chalk that one up to the risk of playing hardcore, right? Well, fortunately, the 4th gym I typically level is the Gym of Ease, with some help from my stash and my friend Bullvine, converted into a whirlwind bar. We went right back into it with an excerpt from an email I sent him on November 20th. Dead again. Clear to 62, clear to 64, and then a 66 went just fine. But somehow, the Rift Guardian procced me. It was an easy one, the Warlock Summoner guy, and I got one-shotted while I was standing next to him. I was still spinning, keeping my distance, had him down pretty low, and then I brushed the Windows key.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. may I have a suggestion? You can get keyboards that disable the Windows key, so that way that never happens. I quickly clicked back into the game window, started spinning again, and he finally fell down. Took just over 5 minutes to clear. Loot dropped. I took a deep breath, and then all of a sudden I took some damage. What? And then I fell over dead. There was a fallen that I guessed that the Rift Guardian had spawned, and I had never noticed.
Okay, this time I mean to laugh.
Oh my god, I am so sorry.
Wow.
Here,
I thought he was just gonna die from the Windows key.
I thought he was gonna die for the Windows key. This story, this is like one of those like no, 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 yes, no like stories.
Oh man.
So, we're up to 2 BS deaths, only one of which had anything to do with poor programming by Blizzard, and that second one with the whirlwind barb bothered me. First of all, how do I go from having no trouble in an entire rift to getting one shot out of nowhere? No change to dodge that I know of, just wham. And this is the Rift Guard, or the Greater Rift, or the Rift Guardian, where I need to push in order to unlock the primal items. That was a level set by Blizzard, and on top of that, why does everything die? Why doesn't everything die once the Rift Guardian dies? I suppose I have to take some blame for that one of not being more aware of my surroundings, but the general idea is once the Rift Guardian is dead, the rift is over, right? Now there's a parallel story going on at the same time. My son has started to play Overwatch, which I pre-ordered to get the cosmetic wings for D3. Now that, not that I actually use them much, and certainly not that I actually play Overwatch, but mainly to reward Blizzard for making such a great franchise in Diablo. I kind of felt that I owed them more money for all the hours of entertainment that I've received, so my son's playing it. Well, that's great, but here's the problem. Since Overwatch is a newer FPS game, I figured I'd let him keep playing on the gaming desktop while I moved over to my old laptop to play D3. It runs okay, as long as I turn down some settings. But nope, Blizzard won't allow that. As soon as I log on to D3, it kicked my son off of Overwatch since we're using the same account. What the hell, Blizzard? I bought 2 licenses, one for each game. I should be able to play them simultaneously, right? Nope, not in their eyes, apparently. So at this point, I'm ready to give up on Season 12. There's nothing really for me to play, since I don't care all that much about leaderboards. I have all the stash tabs already, and I would like to have a coordinated playtime with my son on the same account, which is a pain. I was more or less done with Season 12. Except, way back in 2013, I bought into the concept of self-found hardcore with Flux and Xanth of DII.net fame, where we're talking about. And because I didn't want to get rid of any of my 10 level 60 characters at the time, I decided I would purchase another account to embrace the Ironbound mode of play. Of course, not long after that, the auction house was closed, rendering that mode of play almost irrelevant. Still, I would use the account occasionally, mostly to play with some of my more casual friends, so that way when we grouped, I wouldn't be way ahead of them in gear or Paragon. It dawned on me, one could say that I had an epiphany, that I could use this alternate account where I didn't have any extra stash tabs from seasons, and furthermore, I could play D3 without conflicting with my son's Overwatch sessions. I decided I would play the Necromancer on this account, so I sent Blizzard another $15 for that privilege. And did I mention I also own D3 on Xbox One? I think Blizzard and I are square on money by now, unless of course they want to sell me some extra stash tabs. The main downside of all of this is that I would have to do the set dungeons again. Seriously, dread. Set dungeons should be removed way, way, way before the Paragon system. I think it would make the game more competitive, or at least far less annoying. Take your pick. Anyhow, Guardian has been achieved for Season 12 on the alternate account, and I'm leveling gems for augments for different set variants. At the moment, I'm building up an Inaria speed build for lower greater rifts, regular rifts, and bounties. And due to the power creep, I almost certainly will surpass my previous season high Paragon level on my main account, which was 926 during a Demon Hunter season. I'm currently sitting at 921, and however many days are left in Season 12 to go. Well, I've rambled long enough, enjoy the show, and I'm actually looking forward to Season 13 so I can earn another stash tab. All I want for the future for the game is for set dungeons to be removed. Oz.
What a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Yep.
I will say this. I do agree that if the Rift Guardian is dead in a Greater Rift, you should have zero threat. But there definitely are occasions, for instance, where with Stone Singer, it's weird. They like half fixed it, where sometimes you kill Stone Singer and those little like constructs that he makes that shoot the mortars at you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they break down, but then sometimes they just hang out.
Yeah, and since it was a Fallen, I wonder if it was that bug where sometimes a Fallen would die but not be dead, and so it would follow you around the entire Rift, and you couldn't interact with it. The only way to get rid of it was to go to a different level.
Right. Let's run very far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a bug too. I haven't seen that one in a while, but it definitely still persists.
It sounds, I guess it sounds likely because if it's the Warlock that summons stuff, the Bone Warlock, he doesn't summon Fallen.
Oh, that's true. It's only skeletons.
Yeah, because the only one that summons Fallen is the what is the Fire Morlu boss?
Ember.
Ember. Yeah. I think he's the only one he's the only Rift Guardian boss that summons Fallen.
That's a good point. So yeah, that's probably the bug, which
yeah,
also sucks.
Yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, you got double bugged.
Wolf.
That could also be the reason why he kind of like got one shot, because that thing would still be following you around and attacking you while the Rift Guardian is attacking you.
Oh. Yeah, you may have solved it.
Yeah.
You may have solved that issue. Huh.
I mean, that definitely sucks. I mean, but yeah. And then also for you, we have the lovely Miss Cheetah, who's one of the support forum MVPs for D3 and WoW, and she's saying that there is actually an option within the Blizzard launcher to enable dual logins, so that way you can actually have your launcher open on two PCs at the same time. You just can't play the same game twice. But if you're going to be playing the two different games, it looks like it should work.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. So it's enable multiple sessions of the launcher. Oh, there you go.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
All right. And then we got one more missive.
One more, and let's hit it.
All right. This one comes in from a familiar name, Lion Sword, who I see hanging out in the chat right now. Starts with the customary, sup fellas. I've been meaning to put this email down into words for a while. I think we talked about it a few months back on the show, and then we went necro crazy, and then the holidays happened, and I'm just now getting back to it, so short story long. I've played and beaten Destiny 2 when it launched, and I played a lot of Destiny 1. There's another game I think that lines up well here, a newish MMO that's called Black Desert Online. I wanted to share some thoughts about what a possible D4 would look like in the more open-world MMO type genre. Combat and loot are always going to be the centerpiece of what makes a Diablo game. Hordes of enemies, scores of loot, and game systems that supplement both are the basics of the ARPG. From a combat perspective, I think this is where the biggest change could come. Instead of isometric up-top view, we'd move to a third-person over-the-shoulder view. While this would be a pretty major change for the Diablo franchise, it shouldn't be that much of a change from action combat games that we've seen popping up over the last few years. The one that most reasonably comes to mind, other than Destiny, which is more of a first-person perspective, is indeed Black Desert Online. Combat in BDO is very combo-heavy, with multiple key presses in different directions leading to different combos and elemental attacks. So think of it this way. Imagine a world in which a Diablo character, instead of assigning skills and attacks to buttons, instead just uses a series of keys to cast Blizzard. Maybe casting Glacial Spike twice leads to the ability to cast Blizzard, or 3 punches with the fist attack from Monk opens up a window to cast a giant firebell down on his or her enemies. I'm not here to get into great detail, but I just want to lead you in a specific direction. I think combat system that utilizes keyboard combos is possible. But how about that loot? I mean, let's be honest, loot is the end-all be-all in the Diablo universe. There are a lot of different ways that this can go. Recently, WoW development team has said they will be doing away with their tier sets from the raids, and WoW will no longer have set bonuses for each class. Is set item implementation something Diablo should shy away from or embrace? Destiny's loot system is very similar to Diablo. You get random drops from enemies along the way, and you can also earn reputation tokens to turn into random gear at vendors, basically blood shards. I could see a system like this working well in the Diablo franchise with some tweaks. I think the reputation system in Destiny 2 is great. You get tokens based on what activities you complete, and then you turn those into random gear. Right now, however, Destiny 2 limits how powerful gear can be based on your own power. So you can get incremental upgrades, but never the non-ancient weapon to primal weapon type of upgrade. I think I would prefer Diablo's current system where any ancient of any kind can drop as soon as you hit level cap. And so as soon as you have enough tokens to turn in, you could get the worst legendary in the game or the best. And it would have random rolls just like Diablo does now. Lastly, each planet that you can visit in Destiny has daily challenges that you can complete to earn these tokens. I think it would be excellent to add that to something like Diablo, daily challenges like complete a Greater Rift 70 or do 5 T13 rifts. That'd be really cool to add variety or just some extra rewards for playing the game. Generally, I would expect those challenges to be things you'd likely be doing anyway, but they could send you off to complete a set dungeon on a certain day. Hey, Osmodeus, your favorite feature.
Everybody wants that.
Oh, yes. The possibilities are indeed numerous. Those are just a few that pop up for me on how Diablo could adopt some of the successes from Destiny 2's Loot Pinata. And finally, I want to add some of my own personal desires as an addition to the Diablo franchise, static dungeons. So here's a comparison game. Everyone loves to compare D2 to D3 and then declare that one's better than the other. Personally, I think both games are great, and that Blizzard would do well to consider adding parts of both games into whatever iteration of the series is next. In D2, most loot farming happened by killing the same boss over and over again, bell runs, pindle skin runs, etc., or farming the cows. In D3, however, Blizzard took that boss farm idea away and encouraged density over bosses. Then when Reaper of Souls was released in Loot 2.0 and GRs and everything that we know and love today, there was a bit of that added back in. Now you can kill a boss at the end of a rift or greater rift and the boss drops loot for you. So let's contrast the two. You have a static boss run from Diablo 2, and you have a randomly generated boss run, for lack of a better comparison, in D3. So why not combine the two? Have static dungeon crawl gameplay. D2 proved that farming specific bosses was at least enjoyable to some people, so why not bring it back? It could be super simple, like just a 4-level greater rift, with a boss at the end of each level. Each boss drops loot, but the final boss has the best chance to drop whatever is really good. Or maybe each boss drops blood shard equivalents, and the last boss drops actual gear. It's a simple idea, and I'm sure people a lot smarter than me could figure out a way to make it really good. That's just the first example that comes to mind. Maybe a dungeon called Halls of Agony, where the final boss is, you guessed it, the Butcher. But there are 3 mini-bosses ahead of him on different levels. And you can make it timed. Maybe add some static modifiers to the elites that spawn in the dungeon. Does that sound exactly like WoW Mythic Plus yet? Because it should. I don't know how different that gameplay really is versus, just doing a regular rift or a greater rift, but at the end of the day, you're still killing demons for loot. I think adding more features and more ways for players to play the game adds to the allure of the game, and maybe that's not an addition, but replaces greater rifts. Or maybe legendary gem levels are attained from mini-bosses and not the final boss. I'm not sure. But I think this is a feature that's got some legs, not legendary legs, like the ones on your torso. Thanks. I think we get it. Thanks.
But
Appreciate the
I
clarification.
do have legendaries on my torso.
Oh, look at that chest. What a beautiful chest you have.
It is. It's nice. It's the BlizzCon one. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm not objectifying you. Okay. Whatever the next iteration of Diablo is, I know I'm excited for it, regardless of whether it looks like this above or not. And that's what we got from Lion Sword. So there's a lot to dig into here. I think we'll take it in part. How do you feel about the change from isometric to third person?
Ooh, that's a tough one because like Diablo has just always been isometric. It seems it's almost like a staple, but there have been a fair share of ARPGs that have broken away from it. It would completely change how you move and therefore like combat within the game. I think there's just like the subtle way that you can kind of like control your character and the way that combat works within like D3 or any of the Diablo titles that changing that camera angle would completely change how combat feels.
And you know, that's a really interesting point to make when you think of one of the hallmarks that people always mention with D3 is that the combat experience is they nailed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it almost makes you wonder, is that something? Because I feel like there will be holdovers from D3 in the next thing. Is that something, which is a very strong, or not strong is not the right word, but it's a very kind of landmark decision to make. Because it changes that. Like, imagine trying to whirlwind in third person, or even like, you know, some sort of weird first person. Like, I don't know. It could be really different.
Yeah, because that's one of the other changes, like when you leave like kind of like the third person, the isometric to kind of like a over the shoulder or a first person point of view, it makes collision a little bit more difficult for actually going through and telling like completely where you are and why am I tripping over like this rock and stuff. It changes the dynamic of all of that, because we've all had that instance, and whether playing Destiny or World of Warcraft or whatever, there's small like little tiny like piece that you wouldn't expect to do anything, and all of a sudden your character is holding up on it, so you can't make it back to cover, you know, or you know, in order to get away from the area of effect attack or anything like that. Conversely, being first person, it also opens up more for the developer to give you more interesting situations and engagement within the game, because you now can fully expand to be 3D. You know, you can be on upper level or bottom level, because ARPGs have been able to do, you know, cover-based mechanics for area of effect spells. It's not really something that D2 or D3 took very much advantage of, but it is something that they could do to take at least that forward.
And I feel like if you do that, if you proceed in that manner, then it does kind of give it more of the modern feel, right? Because now you look at a lot of the current entries in terms of more open world-ish RPGs. It's like a Horizon Zero Dawn or a Witcher, and they kind of do model after that, you know, really lush 3D environments. So it would line it up with that. But again, a very strong departure for Diablo.
It's almost go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I asked you to like, you know, state your opinion on it. I don't even know where I would fall. Like I would kind of, I guess it's one that makes me nervous. I want to put like my trust in the devs that they'll, regardless of which system, they'd find a way to make it, you know, as immersive for combat, as beautiful as it could be or should be. So either should work, but it almost is a good thing.
Yeah. I want to say I would be interested in seeing them going and doing it. If they want to go to like a third person perspective. I don't think that it could. I don't necessarily want something like World of Warcraft's camera angle, where you can go through and change the positioning and such. Like a fixed third person perspective within the game, so you have a little bit more gauging of your actual surroundings. You know, since combat in Diablo is a lot faster than it is in World of Warcraft. So at least having some sense of what's going on around you, I think would benefit it if they wanted to kind of like go that direction or that route with the series, if they want to like kind of like evolve it. But I think you would kind of almost still need like that fixed point to give it a little bit of like a Diablo feel, since it would still be kind of like a fixed perspective. But then there's a lot that you can do going to that type of system, with being able to have like a high ground and a low ground. Like, imagine if you go through and had like a next level Belial fight, where it's actually a multi-tiered terrace, and so your like party will get split into groups, and so like one guy's like going through attacking the head, and then Belial like kind of like drops down to the next level, and so someone else down there has to go through and fight him, while the people, you know, up top then have to go through and like run down, and just the varying mechanics that you can use that, you know, you could make work. You know,
I like that, and it really starts to get into kind of that idea of more of these like raid-ish encounters, if you will. I mean, that idea in particular really feels like, you know, like, don't stand in the green stuff and move here, do this transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing you did just mention was the combat pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in Diablo 3, hell yeah, it's super fast.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder though, if they did transition away from the isometric view or just some of those like standard tropes that we know and love right now, would that also be a hit that they were willing to take? Would they actually try to either keep the pace and make it work in this new view, or would they actually slow it down so that it? I mean, I feel like they don't want the product to be too close to WoW, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, because it almost feels like if they were to go through and like change the camera angle, I think inevitably the combat would have to slow down to a certain point. So yeah, I mean that is a very good point. It would be a drastic change. Like that would probably be like one of the biggest changes, to the Diablo franchise, is going away from that third person isometric. But should say we're going to be playing Diablo 7 like 15, 20 years from now, is it still going to be a third person isometric camera? Are they going to tie themselves to that aspect of the game in perpetuum? Are they going to go through and take a risk? And I guess it kind of comes down, how would the community feel? Would especially after Diablo 3, and people will always go through and hark back, Error 37. I can't log in. The auction house. There's always going to be that stigma that associates with Diablo 3, no matter how far it's come. If you were to go through and say like Diablo 4 is going to be a third person or a first person, perspective, are people going to be like going to go through and look at that and kind of like, well, remember all that shit you got wrong with Diablo 3? Like, are they going to be a lot more skeptical if they try and do a big radical change in the game in the next iteration, or will they play it safe? Or is this even a question that the devs are even worrying about?
All valid questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all those questions are on the mind of both the players and the devs probably. And something that you just kind of put into the stew is, if at some point they are going to change it, like if D7 is the mark where they're like, we can finally do away with this isometric thing, then honestly, why not do it earlier than that? Because it's basically that, right? It's that loyalty to what you consider to be the things that make the franchise the franchise. But if we finally decide that that's not a thing that has to stay, then what stopped you from doing it, 2 iterations ago or 3 iterations ago?
Yeah.
So maybe draw the line and say now. I don't know. Oh, it's crazy. So yeah, that's definitely something that would be, I think, pretty divisive potentially, but also could work out completely fine.
I mean, if there is a team out there that could go and make it work, it's like you're talking about the team that turned D3 around and made Reaper of Souls, and with the backup of the group that is continuing to develop World of Warcraft and Overwatch. If anyone can go through and do it, it's this group of people that they have right now. I would have faith in them, if they decide to make a big change like that.
That's a great point. Great points. And there are a couple more nuggets in here. So one of the other things was moving, to say the least. How do you feel about... I pretty much feel this is a given, but he mentioned moving away from sets, like tier sets or just sets in general. I kind of get the feeling that... I don't know if sets as heavily as we rely on them in D3 was a misstep per se. It was a way to do the itemization, and especially like coming from where the state of legendaries was when D3 first came out. I think they kind of had to go this way to make them more powerful and meaningful. But do you imagine that they'd be as necessary in the next go around?
They don't have to be. There were no sets in Diablo 1. There were sets in Diablo 2, but they weren't end-all be-all.
Right.
The majority of builds did not use sets in D2. A set just unlocked a different type of play style that you could do in D2, especially Lord of Destruction when they went through and they started giving like special bonuses. And a lot of times, like you know, a paladin might use a couple pieces of the what was it, the Griswold set just for the magic find, and that was it. You know, the set bonuses really didn't mean all that much. It was right. That also had to do with the fact that in D2 there was only 2 ways to increase your damage output: strength for melee classes, and then plus to skills for everyone. You know, and so like for casters, it didn't care about the weapon. You know, for melee, you're looking for cruels, and it was a different, very, very different combat system and a very, very different itemization system. You know, when they transferred over to D3, they simplified, they streamlined some things, and that left it open to where, well, how's a way that we could fix this set and make it more playable? Oh, that's easy. Let's just throw a damage bonus on this set. And then that kind of like, because of power creep and them never wanting to nerf anything and just buff everything else up to that level, usually meant a little bit of overcompensating, and then it was leapfrogging, and then it just became, well, sets are the default way of playing. It's something that they could address with the way that they develop the itemization system for the next game. They could just completely not do sets. You know, just because it was there before doesn't mean that they have to do it. Just like, you know, what they're saying with World of Warcraft. I haven't really been following WoW, so I didn't know that they're getting rid of tier sets going forward in World of Warcraft. But it's something that they could easily do in Diablo.
Right, and I think you made a key point in that some systems kind of rely on other systems. So if something's built a certain way, say your skill system is built in a way that you don't derive a lot of your power from skills themselves, but more the skills being powered up by these bonuses on these set pieces, which is the D3 model. If we move towards a system where the power is shared a bit, where, cool, you got a piece of gear, and it allows you to do something maybe a little different, perhaps unlocks, you know, something cool about the skill that you like to use anyway, then, yeah, you still are hoping to get good pieces of gear. At the same time, it might not be you have to have 6 of those pieces of gear before the one skill you really like turns on. Maybe you only need the one, or maybe you need some generic thing that, you know, allows your frozen orb or whatever you want to throw in there as an example to work.
I think one of the other things that they could do is just taking a look at the Necromancer and how that could be applied to like all classes in the future. Is less is more. You know, you go through and you tune down the number of actual skills that you have. You make the variety come down to like the rune selection for the skills themselves, and then you don't really have to have sets or even items in particular that super buff this one particular skill, that they just give general damage buffs or like elemental damage type buffs and things of that nature, and then you can make the secondary stats, the secondary affixes matter more for the particular items. You know, you kind of instead of, you know, I have to go through and make sure that every single thing has, you know, plus to impale damage, and I could then instead, like, say you change the system. There's no more, you know, you don't have any of the, you don't have the cold rune, I forget what it is, that allows the impale daggers to penetrate through mobs, or the ricochet that allows them to jump off of mobs. What if instead I have to go through and start finding items that instead give me the chance for my shots to go through enemies when I'm attacking. So that way I have more of a chance that every time I throw these daggers, it will hit multiple mobs. And that's what I'm kind of like gearing for with this particular type of build. Or I'm going through and I'm playing like a wave of Light Monk, and I want this one particular stat that increases the damage area of my bell so I can hit more enemies with it in order to, you know, so that way I can clear faster on that one. Though, like, these types of ideas and mechanics work more kind of like in a D2, where there's a fixed difficulty and not a super scaling difficulty like what we have in D3 of Greater Rifts. I think a lot of the systems that exist within, if you capped D3 at, you know, the torment levels instead of going into the greater rifts, there'd be a lot more build diversity, and people wouldn't care as much about all these things being fine-tuned because everything can clear the game in 2 minutes, or can clear your torment rift in 2 minutes. It's just like, what stupid build can I do to clear it in 2 minutes? It changes the way that you look at the game. And if we were to move towards more of say a type of difficulty like World of Warcraft or Destiny 2, where it is kind of like you have these fixed difficulties that are just really hard. They're not easy, they're just really difficult. That gives you a little bit more freedom with how you spec your character or what skills you use.
I like it. I think it kind of satisfies a bunch of different things that maybe plague or that have been or come under fire for D3, and still allows you to maintain something like a competitive system. So this kind of gets into the last point on the email here, but sort of implementing that mythic dungeon feel for the next Diablo game. Because if you just brought up WoW, and you're right in that there's a bit of staticness, and then you can make it harder, but it doesn't like astronomically or forever go on or anything like that. So I feel like you can combine the ideas, and that is, Flapper's asking in chat, like, what about your esport? Like, every game these days has an esport component or some sort of competitive thing that could become an esport.
Yeah.
And I mean, you saw the promise out of the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. I feel like if you have a system like that, that gets implemented into the next Diablo game, then it kind of tackles that. Two birds with one stone in a way. It keeps the competitive element there for players. Because the big thing I always think of, and that scares me when you difficulty, is, well, what happens after you've tried all the builds you want to try, after you've done everything you want to do? Because at some point you're gonna be like, well, I'm just getting gear to get gear now. Like, what am I gonna do with it? How do I push myself? So always, go ahead.
No, continue. I'm just agreeing.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, there should be running parallel some other system or end game, I guess. Yeah, end game is probably the thing that we need to look at, and that would be one of those systems that gives you that continuous, even if it's not getting more gear, because that doesn't have to necessarily be the way. Maybe just more, like you said, player expertise, or like being able to navigate sort of that increased difficulty.
Yeah, man, I have to say, I love this email. It's creating so much conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that makes me think about it from this perspective. Okay, you have Diablo 3 that we get like little balance tweaks here and there, but the actual content, the meat and potatoes of the game, is a greater rift system, which just doesn't really change, just progressively gets more and more difficult. And no one has beaten it. No one has gotten to Greater Rift 150, which is the highest point that you can go in it. So there is more to do. But people like to complain that there's a lack of content, or there's nothing to do, because it's I can agree, it's the same system, just doing it a little bit harder and a little bit harder and a little bit harder. Versus, say, like World of Warcraft, that gets constant new updates and content and quests and raids and dungeons and stuff like that, but people still get bored with it and complain about the same thing, that you're not giving us content fast enough. I've done everything, and so now I've got nothing to do. Which system do people actually like more? Because if Diablo 4 is going to be like a non-subscription model, or not have any type of revenue incentive, God, I don't want to put like the words Diablo and loot box in the same sentence, but some, definitely not loot boxes, please, no loot boxes, but just some type of renewable income that the game can have to generate. I think like World of Warcraft's like the only thing that uses a subscription fee model anymore. If they find something that could work for Diablo to allow that to work, that would allow them to push out like more content and more, like kind of like dungeons or zones or something like that on a monthly basis or quarterly basis or something like that. Would that be something that people would like, or would people prefer the traditional ARPG, which is one-time purchase. You have this set of content. If you want more, buy the expansion. But also have like a continuation of that Greater Rift system sitting in the background. So infinite scaling difficulty for as high as you can take it, with the caveat being it is more or less it is completely repetitive. You're just doing the same thing over and over with slightly tweaked numbers.
Yeah, that's a big one to tackle. I almost want to. I have to like wrap my head around some of these things because I feel like I go back and forth sometimes on what side I feel like I want to fall on. But I think this, you kind of brought up a point just maybe a second ago of there's a really good email, right? I think there are so many points in here and things that you can definitely debate. I want to at least invite everybody else out there. If you have an opinion on any of this, or even your own version of what you want to see for the next game or something like that, write in, because like we said, news is going to be stark. We can actually spend time on these emails like this.
Oh yeah.
And bring in those opinions and really dissect and discuss. So I want more.
Oh yeah, because we saw some people earlier in the chat that were going through and talking about like Grim Dawn. Everyone in the Diablo 3 community has that one guy that says, no, you should play Path of Exile. Send us your emails. Why, if you play Grim Dawn and you enjoy the game, what's an aspect of the game that you wish Diablo would do? And I can definitely tell you, the Diablo developers, I mean, just Blizzard developers in general, they're gamers. They play a lot of games. They've all played Path of Exile. They've all played Grim Dawn, Divinity. They play the other ones that they see, but the one thing that they might not necessarily do is get other players' feedback on it. What are the aspects that you all like or enjoy about these other games? Obviously, we don't work for Blizzard. There's nothing really that we can do, but there's some people from Blizzard that listen to the show, so this would be an interesting way of maybe going through and getting your voice out there. In addition to going through, post it on Reddit, throw it up on the official forums. This is the time to make yourself heard while they're going through and making the next game. They haven't, nothing is set in stone. They haven't made any announcements about anything. They haven't even told us what it is that they're working on. So yeah, now would be the time.
Throw something at the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah.
And that's Westmarch Workshop.
Yeah, Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. If you want to go through and drop us an email with your thoughts or your ideas, hit us up on Twitter. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons, what have you. But I do suggest Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com as the best way to reaching out to us, especially for the longer emails.
Those pigeons can't carry too much.
With that, do you have anything else before we go on?
I think I'm good.
All right.
I like that discourse.
Yeah, and we did have a contest last week to go through and win a Rise of the Necromancer pack that was donated by Watson. It was a lore question, which was name the what was the name of the vessel that Kara Night Shadow took during Legacy of Blood to get from Gale Cool to Luke Ghislaine. Maybe that question was a bit too hard, since I searched around and you couldn't Google it. You actually had to know the answer or pick up a copy of Legacy of Blood. We didn't get any responses. So we'll do a slightly easier one this time around that you can go through and find the answer to. So if you would like to win a Rise of the Necromancer pack for Diablo 3, for PC, I should say, you'll have another lore question to answer for this week. Or hell, if someone goes through and answers the last one, I'll still take that. Which first one to respond. What is the name of Zale's quotation marks friend, his adventuring companion? What is the name of Zale's adventuring companion? We'll throw that one out there. That one should be easy enough to get. And it's a necromancer. So there you go.
Boom.
Yep. And Leviathan needs to go and Google who Zale is.
I'm laughing because it's true.
But with that, it's going to take us over into our items of the week.
Items.
Of. There was a pause. I didn't know if I had to say something or not.
You know what? It's all good, man. The week. Man, this thing's getting better and better.
Yep. Bodie McBoatface. Sorry, that is not the answer to that question. But here we go. Our first item is, this one is sent in by Lion Sword alongside his lovely email that generated a lot of discourse and conversation. This one is an Ancient Traveler's Pledge. It rolled with increases cold skill damage by 19%, has 878 intelligence, increases critical hit damage by 88%, critical hit chance by 10, and the secondary affixes of 179 arcane resistance and 9,000 thorns damage. Nothing has been re-rolled yet.
It's a nice piece.
That it is.
Get that socket. And he just got this on his solo self-found Witch Doctor. That he's rolling in hardcore. So a nice one to start out early on your adventure with.
This next item we have come in from Seahawk. This one was sent in on Twitter. This is from one of the consoles, but I'm not sure which version of the console it is. But this is the Pestilence Incantations. This is the Necromancer Pestilence legs. This one has 1,209 intelligence, 646 vitality, 742 armor. There's 207 arcane resistance that increases the gold pickup radius by 2 yards. And the way that it reads the intelligence is because it has the sockets, and the way that the console versions work, it logs it. It rolls it all into that number.
It's so confusing to me when they do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, this is a hacked item, son.
This is strange and different. It confuses me. I don't like it. Yep. Thank you very much. Seahawk had actually sent in a couple of items, but we only ever show one item per week per person. So feel free to submit other items in future weeks if you care to.
Keep them coming.
Yep. Our next item, this one comes in here from Rick Unreal, is a Primal Dead Man's Legacy. And this bad boy comes in with 1,000 dexterity. Increases the attack speed by 20%, critical hit chance by 10%, increases your hatred regeneration by 1.5 per second, multi-shot damage by 15%, has been re-rolled for the 12 maximum discipline, and of course multi-shots hit enemies below 60% health twice, and increases his damage by 200%.
That's pretty nice. It's always tough to get a good quiver, because so many stats can come with it. But recently with this patch, since they removed that big chunk of multi-shot damage, having multi-shot on the quiver is actually really useful. And then, of course, the only other thing you would probably want is CDR, but Hatred Regen is actually not bad at all since, you know, multi-shot.
Yeah.
You use up the resources.
A lot.
A lot.
Yep.
That's real solid. And you can get the CDR elsewhere.
And with that, I believe that brings us to the end of our community section. So if you'd like to go through and send us in your epic items or your stories or topics for discussion or your entry for the contest, go ahead and drop us a line at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. We're also on Twitter at the WM Workshop. Then, of course, if you like the show, you can go through, catch our live streams here every other Wednesday night at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. If you like what we do, want to go through and check out the other content over here at BlizzPro, feel free to go through and check out our other shows. We've got Well Met, our Hearthstone podcast on Monday. Tuesdays is Heroes Power Hour for everything Heroes of the Storm, and Thursdays is Payload, our Overwatch podcast. You can also go through and see a lot of the topics that we talk about here on the show and more at diablo.blizzpro.com. And if you want to support us, the BlizzPro family of podcasts and content, you can always go through and subscribe to our Twitch channel. It helps support both the website and all the hosting costs of all of our podcasts, and we definitely appreciate it. We are even in clan. We are the Blizz Pro clan. We've got plenty of openings right now. If you want to go through, drop us a line to go and get joined in. If you don't want to leave your current clan, we are also the Westmarch Workshop community. You can go and search for us in the social section. That is on PC, not on console, sadly. And of course, you can always go through and chat with us from time to time at discord.gg/BlizzPro. And if you want to follow us individually, I am at 9ballgamer on Twitter and at twitch.tv/9ball. And then Leviathan here you can find at LeviathanD3 on Twitter and twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And with that, do you have anything else, sir?
Solo self-found is the way.
Do you know the way?
It is my mission to convert everyone to solo self-found. Or at least not convert, but get people to try. Stay tuned.
For more.
Potatoes.
Tomatoes.
Greens?
I don't know the rest of the words.